Gracefully Bound fam, happy Sunday, and yes, I'm back for another video. Welcome to your weekly dose of spiritual clarity, emotional reset, and sacred space to realign with who God has called us to be. This is your Sunday Soul Sesh, where we shake off the noise of the world and center ourselves in peace, power, and purpose. So take a breath, sis. Grab your journal and let's tap into the truth, wisdom, and grace that's going to carry us through this week. I am your host, Alicia D. Collins, your boundary coach, faith filled sister, a work in progress, and author of Nope, Saying No with Grace and Grit. And I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get into it. This week, we're diving into part two of our Boundaries Are a Blessing series with a focus on transformation because boundaries do require a renewed mind. The scripture this week, one that completely shifted the way that I look at my personal boundary journey, and that is Romans 12:2. Let's look at it together. Romans 12:2 reads, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." So last week we had perfect peace. This week we have perfect will because we serve a perfect God. Let's talk about what that really means when it comes to how we show up, speak up, and set boundaries. We live in a world that praises burnout and applauds hustle. But Romans 12:2 tells us to do just the opposite. It says, do not conform. Don't shrink your spirit to fit what the world expects from you. Instead, we are to be transformed. Transformation begins in the mind. And if you're still trying to be everything for everybody, that might be your cue that some mental renewal needs to happen. When we renew our minds, we recognize unhealthy patterns for what they really are. We replace guilt with grace, and we start saying yes to the things that truly align with the will of God and no to those things that distract us from Him. This is what true boundary works looks like. And this is what leads to true transformation. Let me tell you something personal. Before I started setting boundaries on my own, I thought the more I gave, the more spiritual I was. I thought saying yes to everything was a sign of being kind, helpful, and even Christ-like. I believed pouring myself out completely was holy. That being the dependable one, the available one, the whatever you need, I got you, girl one, meant I was walking in love. But I was empty, exhausted, mean and nasty, snapping at my family over the smallest things, crying in my car after work, saying yes while silently screaming on the inside, overcommitted and not getting any rest. I was doing all the right things, but for all the wrong reasons, and had the nerve to call it ministry. It wasn't until I started renewing my mind, taking time to sit with God and not just with my to do list, reevaluating my worth and learning to say no without any shame or guilt. This is when I finally saw peace as possible, and not just peace, but purpose filled, focused, joy, that kind of peace, the peace that we all desire. That's when I realized I didn't need to earn love through overfunctioning. I needed to trust God, trust Him enough to believe that my no still honored Him. I wrote in my book, Nope, Saying No with Grace and Grit. I used to think boundaries made me selfish. Now I know they make me obedient. Let's break that down a little bit further. Transformation doesn't just happen just because we want it. It's a choice. It's a choice day by day. It's a choice thought by thought. And yes, it's a choice boundary by boundary. Excuse me. Romans 12:2 gives us a blueprint for holy transformation, and it begins in the mind. And if we want to live differently, lead differently, and love differently, then we've got to think differently. We've got to unlearn the patterns of people pleasing and exhaustion and make room for new rhythms rooted in grace and truth, confidence and kindness. Before we can truly be transformed, we've got to get real about our own worth. I'm talking about that God given, can't be shaken, not up for debate kind of worth. Because let's be honest, you cannot renew your mind if deep down you still believe your value comes from how much you do, how available you are, and how many people you keep happy. That is not transformation. It's still performance. And we are done with that. We left that back in last week. Since your self worth is spiritual, it is not prideful, it's powerful. And it's saying, God, I believe what you said about me. I believe I am chosen. I believe I am called. Because I believe it, I refuse to keep living like I'm optional. Real talk, you will not set boundaries if you think you're only as valuable as your ability to say yes. You won't protect your peace if you think chaos is just your cross to bear. You won't live transformed if your identity is still tangled in other people's opinions. But when you really start to believe that you are already enough because you are, before the email reply, before the yes ma'am, before the extra shift, you begin to show up differently. You begin to say no from a place of alignment with God. You begin to rest without guilt, and then you begin to transform. Because transformation starts with your identity in Him. And identity starts with truth. So let's tell the truth today. You're not what you do. You're not what you carry, and you are not what other people expect of you. You are God's daughter. You are worthy, and that's the foundation for everything else. To be transformed, we got to do three things. Reclaim our mindset. Ask yourself, where am I thinking like the world instead of thinking like I'm a child of God? Secondly, we need to change the way that we talk about things by resetting our language. It's okay to say, that doesn't work for me. Let me pray about it first. I'm choosing to get some rest because, sis, I'm exhausted. And my favorite, let me ask my husband. Finally, we need to realign our habits. We need to make space to be still, to spend time with God, and make room for spiritual reflection. That is where renewal begins. All right, sis. Here's your journal prompts for the week, because writing things down and committing to them is so much an important part of this journey. So I have 3 questions for you to write down. Where have I been conforming to the world's expectations? Where do I need to be transformed by God's truth? What is one boundary I can set this week to support that renewal? You're encouraged to share one or all 3 in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's bear each other up, share, provide feedback, and hopefully pray for one another, because you're not in this alone. You don't need to earn your worth by overextending yourself. You don't need to keep conforming to broken systems, broken cycles, or broken beliefs. You are called to be so much more than that. You are called to freedom, and you are definitely called to transformation. So let's stop shrinking and let's start renewing. I'll see you back here next week for our next for part 3 of our Boundaries Are a Blessing series. We'll be talking about what it means to honor the season you're in and why knowing your capacity is a holy act of faith. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. In the meantime, be sure to visit my website, share, AliciaDCollins.com. If you haven't already gotten your copy of Nope Saying No with Grace and Grit, you can get it there along with merch and all the other things that people put on their websites. I got it too. And says freely, you do not have to do this boundary journey alone. You can join us on Facebook in our Facebook group, Gracefully Bound, where we're building a sisterhood of faith-filled women who are done with burnout and ready for boldness. Join us. Until then, walk boldly, rest deeply, and protect your peace. Bye.